Hi, back in session with Professor P for Chapter 2, Archaeology. All right, we could start again with our concept sheets, or you don't have to. You could just sort of listen to this quick, fun lecture. All right, let's start. One of the things it starts off with in this chapter is what kind of damage happens from tourism. Even thinking about you being a tourist, what do you think we do as humans? We could leave a footprint. We could damage sites. We could drop pollution. We could infringe on some of the cultural ideologies and places of the people. We could cause erosion. There's lots of things that we do because we leave our own footprint, right? We have to try to keep in the field of archaeology conservation. We have to try to protect some of these sites, right? But right now we talk about, sort of this damage. Who owns the past? Nobody. Nobody owns or control it. It's part of humanity. It's part of who we are. And as our field, that's what we try to do to the best of our ability, is understand what we as humans were doing in the past. All right. What about collecting? Collectors and collection, especially from the past, was very damaging to the field of archaeology. It could be very violent. They could destroy, right? Destruct places. Collectors really... And in our field, we don't keep anything. It's nothing that we own. When we discover things, we might be able to name them, but really it's about protecting them and, passing them off to museums so that they could preserve and conserve them for future generations. Fourth, collecting can be very violent and very nasty. All right, what are oral traditions? Oral traditions tell us a lot about history, right? It's knowledges. It's sort of a history that's verbally passed. What's really cool is it could be about legends and mythology, but really oral traditions are passing on culture from one person to another. Lots of cultures value that a little bit more than others. Some say our oral traditions and oral histories tell us what we need to know about the past. We don't need to do any of this scientific research because our oral stories let us know who we are, right? And they're very valuable and we understand to culture. So we never debate those kind of importance. But think about in your own family, what kinds of oral traditions and myths and legends and ideologies, medical oral traditions, everything that's been passed down from grandparents and great-grandparents, they become a vital aspect of humanity. All right, let's move on. Nagpra. Nagpra is a policy. It is the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. It came out in the 1990s to protect Native American sites. On our canvas, in the documentary section, there is a video on Nagpra and Native American sort of side. And we're going to read an article called Battle of the Bones, sort of this difference between Native Americans and archaeologists and how they feel about Nagpra, this policy that's been instituted by the government that says we have to return everything back to Native Americans, even if it's not their Native American group. We sort of homogenize them, Native Americans, when there's literally thousands of different Native American groups with a varying, cultural ideologies and traditions. They vary, right? The Miwoks aren't going to be the same as the Cherokee, right? Or the Shoshone or whatever we're talking about. So Nagpra becomes very important because it really changes the whole trajectory of archaeology and Native Americans. So understand Nagpra. What do archaeologists really do? They study the past, but scientifically, by using material remains, artifacts, ecofacts, fossils, analyzing features. We're a very holistic field. There's 5 fields, like I told you before. Archaeology is one of those, and it's all about studying man, right? We really want to understand about ourselves. Let's get to some of the different sort of subfields. There's lots of them. They give you a little bit of them. Salvage archaeology is really about recovering. This really talks about like federal and state protected sites, things like that. CRM is cultural resource management. Cultural resource management basically takes action before excavation begins. Sometimes you see these people on the sideways and they're wearing orange or yellow vests. Some of them are cultural resource management archaeologists where before Slatton Ranch was built or the Highway 4 bypass was built, they have to go there and make sure there's nothing of cultural significance there. You have to make sure there's no fossils or artifacts there, or construction has to stop. Some of you guys live in these new developments, and before those homes were built, your builders had to hire CRM to say, look, you could build, right? Because if there's stuff there, building has to stop. Right? If there's anything that's of cultural significance. CRM does that, right? They really work for the government. All right, let's move on to prehistoric archaeology. Prehistory means time before written record. So those are cultures that are studied before written record has occurred, right? All right. Anthropology and archaeology really studies archaic humans, sort of the earliest humans, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, right? Homo rudolfensis, right? All of these kinds of things, ancient and archaic man. Classic archaeology is just that. It studies the classic cultures, Greek, Rome, right? Things like that, art and economic life, right? But those are the classic civilizations. All right, let's turn your concept sheet and continue to go on. Biblical archaeology is sort of common sense here, but these are experts in things like areas of the Bible, Jerusalem, studying Canaanites, Israelites, right? This is really about analyzing things related to the Bible, right? And related to the areas of the Bible. Egyptology and Mayanology is just that. They look at and work on periods of Egyptian culture and Mayan culture. I specialize in the Mayan culture. And in my cultural anthropology, I went and I lived in Guatemala studying, the Maya, the Maya today. All right, historical archaeology is time after the written record. So societies that actually had written record, all right, just so you guys know. Underwater archaeology is really awesome because, or sometimes we call them maritime archaeologists, underwater archaeologists, and it's just that, studying ancient shipwrecks, right? Studying and reconstructing past cultures that were, about sea life, right? Things like that. So it's all about sort of water. Industrial archaeologist wants to analyze things during the Industrial Revolution when things were industrializing, all right? Paleo-ethnobotanists study ancient food remains. That's sort of cool. We all love food. Zoo archaeology studies ancient animal bones. Garbology is just that. It studies garbage. Nothing's really garbage to an archaeologist or an anthropologist. Everything can tell us about something. Even if you analyze your friend and they say, ooh, I'm on a diet, and then you analyze their garbage and then you see pizza and beer, you go, well, maybe they're really not, right? Garbology tells us, and trash can tell us a lot about what people are eating, what people's likes and dislikes are, right? What materials are, is it cardboard? Is it wood? What materials are around in the environment? Lots of things. All right, let's get to single origin theory. Single origin theory is a theoretical approach that says we all originated in Africa and we spread out. We're going to get to this later on, but it's called a single origin theory. We all originated in Africa, we spread out. Multi-regional theory is that we all were in different parts of the world and doing different things, that there wasn't a single origin of Africa. All right, how can archaeologists be used as a political tool? And we talk about this a lot. Archaeologists and the field of archaeology can be used politically. People can use it, to analyze their own agendas. They could use it for political gain. They could use it to follow what their own likes and dislikes are. Archaeologists, we try now, in modern day archaeology, we try not to do this, but there are people at the time that did try to use it as a political tool. All right. Lake Titicaca, we're going to talk about more. We even have an article on Lake Titicaca, but it's going to talk about sort of the raised fields, in Latin America and different things like that we're going to go back. We already talked about Homo erectus in chapter 1, but 1.8 million years ago to 1.6 million years ago. Homo erectus was right before us, known for the Acheulean tool, which was a hand axe, creating and controlling fire, living in caves, right? Living in culture and families and all that good stuff. All right, 10,000 years ago, we have something called the Neolithic Revolution, rise of agriculture, right? When we started to manipulate the ground. Before that, we were hunting and gathering, right? We were just collecting from the natural environment. We were not manipulating the environment or doing agricultural growth. We do agricultural growth today. We still do it. We go to the grocery stores to get our food. We don't actually go and hunt and gather it, right, in the natural environment. So we're going to talk about that as the semester comes on, and we're going to learn more about this stuff. I hope you guys are having a great day. See you for chapter 3. Bye.